Seems to be when somebody is a serving officer, it seems like they are more likely to get arrested if an allegation's made. Someone messaged me and said they were locked up over an allegation from like months back where someone's just gone, yeah, my partner did this. Oh yeah, he's a bobby. Oh, he's a bobby, is it? Right, okay, we'll go lift him. I know somebody personally who was in the police and they walked into work with a fucking black eye, and said, My girlfriend punched me last night. They made a statement, made a complaint, got passed over, and then the girlfriend has then rang up and gone, "Well, he smacked me on the ass too hard fucking 6 months ago, and it left a red mark." And guess who got locked up? So when it comes to dating in a job, I'm interested to know, are you dating in the job? Have you had any experience dating with a job? Good, bad, and ugly. But I know of plenty of people who have started relationships in the job. Sometimes when putting in relationships outside the job, which obviously is a bit of a no-no, but I don't agree with that. A supervisor should be able to be in a relationship with somebody they are looking over. Those pro-Palestine marches that are shouting, "Get a real fucking job." Have you seen those shouting at the police, "Get a real fucking job"? The irony is palpable. Thousands of people listen to this podcast every single month. However, only a fraction of those people actually follow and rate the podcast. Can I ask you a favour? If you want this podcast to keep on growing, if you want these stories, the advocacy for emergency services, and giving a voice to the emergency services to continue, please follow, like, and rate the podcast. It helps more than you know, and it helps the podcast to grow. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Jobs Fog podcast with me, your host, Mr. J. Dartmoor. I don't know why I always, I don't know why I always introduce it like that. Like I don't talk like that. So, but just starting the podcast is going, "Hi everyone, yeah, J. Dartmoor. How are you guys? You all right? You having a good day? Yeah, sound. Maybe I will start doing like that. Let me know whether you think a more, I don't know, calm introduction is probably the best way to be. But normally what I do is before I start recording this, I normally have a shit ton of coffee to kind of get hyped and get ready. Occasionally I do need a poo though. But you know what? You just gotta you dictate when you go to the toilet. Your stomach doesn't dictate when you go to the toilet. You're in fucking charge. Not the poop, you're in charge. Say that after 20 miles on an ultra marathon. Definitely not speaking from experience there. It's actually more like 30. But anyway, how the fuck are we? You all right? You having a good day? How was Christmas and New Year, everyone? Christmas and New Year. How was Christmas and New Year, guys? Hope it was all right. Hope we all stay safe. Hope you got some funny fucking stories to send me. Or some crazy stories, I'm always happy. Because this podcast, which is designed for emergency services, be that in the UK, in Ireland, in Australia, in the US, or further afield, this is the place where we can get together and we can have a laugh, whether you're in the ambulance, the fire service, the police, fucking whatever, prisons, everything. This is the place where we get to connect, the place where we get to listen to each other's stories, where we get to champion each other for the great work what we do, the place where the media, a place away from the media spotlight where media just loves to shit all over the great work what we do. They don't see the hard work we do every day. And suddenly, if somebody does something wrong, it casts a massive wide net over the rest of the service and everybody else, and it doesn't it? But you know what? We do a fucking hard job. We do a very, very hard job. And again, as always, hats off to you. And all the people who were sleeping in their beds peacefully, who were enjoying wrapping, opening up Christmas presents, and were having a good time with their families, they could only do that because of you, because you were there, ready to respond and to take care of people when shit hit the fan and people needed your help. So, a very Merry Christmas and a very Happy New Year to all of the emergency services workers out there. Okay. And if you want some extra support, guys, remember, I do have a shift support community. I do have a community for support workers. Fucking I'll try again. I've got it written down as well. Oh, me. I do have a community for support. Fuck, I'll try it. Right, third time lucky. I do have a community for shift workers. I do have a support community for shift workers. Fuck it. No, I'm not even going to edit that out because you guys need to hear it raw. Some people say they like the fuck ups. Other people just ignore them. But I do have this, and you know what? If you don't want to join that, that's fine. There is a shift survival guide, which is a short ebook, which goes through things such as exercise, diet, sleep, even stress management, and even like if you wanted to get out of the job, how to do that and how to build an online business similar to how I did it. Just a few pointers here or there, but the community, I am going to toot my own horn about it. I'm building something quite special. It's purposely built for people just like me and you. A lot of the things I wish I'd have known when I was in the job, a lot of the things people tell me, because I get loads of messages of people saying, I've had this issue, I've got this issue. Great. I then make content about that and I put it in the community for when people do join, they have exactly what they're looking for. And if there is something specific which you would like to see inside the community, by all means, let me know. You also get a free trial when you join up as well. And it's not mega expensive either. It's actually really cheap, because it's less for me. It's less about making money and more about getting people in. I want this. I want to build this community. I want shift workers to feel supported, because God knows it's a hell of a job what we decide to do, what we all decide to do. And you guys, again, hats off to you. All right, so a couple of little updates for you. Little updates, because we like updates. Why not? So, firstly, my second book, the I forgot his name. So well. This. Oh my god. It's on its first one back. First one back from the New Year from January. So the next book I'm writing is called The System's Fucked. And the System's Fucked is taking a look at the overall criminal justice system in the UK. Primarily in England and Wales, just because Scotland have a different law, which I think is weird. I think it's very odd. I imagine Americans feel like this. Like, yes, it's all part of the USA, but in this state, it's legal to smoke weed. If you go 100 miles down the road, it's then you'll get put in prison for it. Crazy, crazy. We have something like that in the UK, not as bad as that, like not such disparity. Generally, one thing is illegal in all over the place. But Scotland just work under like a different law. So in in England and Wales, and I think Northern Ireland, we work under the Police and Criminal Evidence Act. In Scotland, they work under something else. Not even going to attempt to guess what it is. I don't know. If someone is in Scotland, feel free to send me an angry email. Listen, earlier, cunt. That was a terrible Scottish accent. Um, but yeah, so update on that. That is currently it's getting there. It's getting there. I'm hoping to have it released for about April time, but I also don't want to rush it. My last book was released in May. I don't want to rush this one because it's quite in depth. There's a lot of research gone into it. I've done tons of interviews with people from all over the criminal justice system, the courts, social services. I've interviewed a barrister, interviewed tons of police officers, loads of people from the prisons as well. A prison governor. Got to interview a prison governor. Yeah, it's been really, really fun doing and quite insightful and also quite worrying as well about the way the service is run and just the absolute shit show what it's in. So a lot of activism groups as well, a lot of activist groups in relation to like uh, CSE and grooming gangs and shit like that. So it's all been really, really good. So there's that. There's also my main channel, because I have three YouTube channels. If you don't know, I have this one, which is obviously the Jobs Foot podcast, the emergency services podcast. I then have a little side one, which I've only recently started. With that, I do a lot of fitness stuff because I love it. I love doing fitness stuff, and I needed just that little bit of different creative outlet. So I do fitness tests, police fitness tests. I've done our own fitness tests as like a follow along thing. So if you do have the bleep test coming up, stick it in your ears. Mark out a 15 meter track, and then you get used to the bleeps as well. So I've left all the bleeps in, and I run to the bleeps, and it's dead good. So there's that. I also have attempted a lot of different things with. Oh, sorry, I'm stifling a yawn there. It feels very, very rude to yawn when I'm talking to you wonderful people because I'm hyped up on coffee. They actually don't know why people yawn, do they? I don't think they do. I don't think they know why people yawn. Anyway, what was I talking about? Yes, of course. The shift proof channel. Shift proof channel. Yeah, so I basically just do loads of mad, like like fitness challenges, and I'm gonna move into like a bit of lifestyle stuff. I'm gonna attempt different challenges and do different physical feats because I like watching that sort of stuff. I think it's of value to people. Just an ordinary dude who is attempting these things, and if you wanted to work with me, you want some advice, some support, by all means. I feel that it's important to put your money where your mouth is. If I'm talking to people about how to lose weight and get fit and get strong, I think it's important that people see me doing things and also not accomplishing in everything either. I think that human element is important because what we tend to see online is we see these big chiseled ripped guys or these women with like size 6 waist, big lips, big booty. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit when it comes to the fitness industry. So I think it's good to see somebody real who doesn't necessarily can't necessarily pass everything, but I'm generally in all right nick. To be fair, I do okay. This video was sponsored by my best-selling police memoir, The Job's Fuck Secret Diary of a Police Officer. After 10 years in the police service, I finally left and I decided I need to speak out. This book does a deep dive into police corruption, the real reason why the police force is falling apart, and things you will never hear in the mainstream media. You can check it out in the link in the description of this video. You could also grab some merchandise and support me on Patreon. And now, without further ado, enjoy the video. I do okay, and it's nice for me as well to go, okay, I need to improve on this, I need to improve on that. So that's that channel. But the main channel is the Jay Dartmoor channel. And on that, I talk about police and politics. So I talk about things to do with the police and in relation to news stories and stuff. It's very centered around that. But it's a channel which it champions frontline officers and holds the system to account. So I recently did a video which is doing all right, actually. Recently did a video about why we see so many people getting arrested or for like tweets and social media posts, which I think that is absolutely crazy that so many people getting locked up for that sort of thing. And I just talk about like everyone wants to say the UK is a police state, it's authoritarian. I I mean we're not there. I can see why people think that, but we're not there. I think that it is very overzealous on certain things, such as online crimes and online speech. But at the same time, I don't think it's got to like someone compared us to the Gestapo, the police to the Gestapo in the UK, like in Nazi Germany. It's like, listen, if you think the UK police are as bad as the Nazi fucking Gestapo, then UK police, then the Gestapo weren't that bad. Like honestly, it's ridiculous the things what people come out with. But this is just it's online, is it? People say shit online. People go, oh, fucking messaging, all the rest of it. I actually half the time I just avoid reading comments because they just ruin your day. Because you can get 20 really nice comments and really complimentary comments, and you get one, and it's like, you fucking asshole, you've ruined my day there. But then again, it's also my fault for looking. Um, so with that channel, I'm doing a lot of like long form stuff now. So I've got a whiteboard, and I'm actually quite enjoying doing them, just standing there with a whiteboard and doing deep dives into certain topics. I'm also going to do some reaction sort of content. So if I see something in the news or people send me like loads of reels and loads of memes and loads of videos, so I'm going to start doing some stuff like that too because I think the audience will enjoy it. I quite like it. And yeah, I just you just have to do things which feed your soul, I suppose. Things, and that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy doing this because I love, I love that I can be the voice for so many cops and so many people in emergency services. I just we can just relate to each other because there's too much negativity out there, guys. And yes, obviously some stuff we do talk about on this channel can get quite heavy at times. It doesn't necessarily always has to be. And what I think I've done is I found a nice little space where I hear your stories. I obviously talk about those. Sometimes I have guests on, and it makes you feel less alone. And now that's what this is all about because we need people in emergency services as much as people shit on it and everything. We need it. We need it. And my hope is with this that enough people feel heard, and they feel that they can um, stand up for themselves when it comes to the system. And I hope that people who are in the system who can make those big decisions listen to this, hear these stories, and go, we need to do better. Like that. That's what my hope is. So this is just me saying, like, share the podcast, like the podcast, tell people in who you work with about the podcast. It all helps. All really, really helps. So, right. I saw a quote actually, and it said, "We cannot afford to have officers who believe the badge gives them power rather than responsibility." Now, when I read that, let's flip it on its head. So, officers who have no responsibility but all the power, and obviously that would be bad because officers need to uphold the law, they need to protect people. And it's one thing, and I always talk about this, it's the empathy in policing as well. In that, and we're going to get into a little bit in this one about stats and people who um, get arrested for false allegations. Officers essentially being forced to not make their own judgment and not make their own decisions, and it's happening everywhere. It was happening in my force, my old force. There's tons of people message me and say that it's happening exactly where they are. But before we get into that, I wanted to briefly touch on dating in the job. I never really dated in the job. I had one or two things with a couple of PCSOs. I never actually had a girlfriend in the job. Um, the whole thing was like, never, don't shit where you eat for me. But I know of plenty of people who um, have started relationships in the job. Sometimes when putting in relationships outside the job, which obviously is a bit of a no-no. Like if you're gonna start a relationship with a job, fucking end the current relationship. You know what I mean? Like, come on, be be decent about it. But it makes sense why people do get involved with the people inside the job because just from like a lifestyle perspective, your partner works in the industry, works in emergency services. So they know the things with shifts. They know the things with being too tired on like a rest day. They know what it's like to be away during the night and be really tired when they get in. So they obviously understand all of it, and they know that obviously the mental health impact and everything else what can occur following a busy set, or like you deal with something quite nasty. So they know all that. I did briefly date a paramedic when I was in the job, and she was lovely. She was lovely to be fair. It didn't work out. We was only seeing each other for like a couple of weeks, if that. And she came to mine one night, and she had had a really bad day, and I think she was talking to me about like a 25-year-old, 22-year-old, something like that, who had like a cardiac arrest and died, and it really affected her. So yeah, but that's how um just emotionally how shift workers can support each other, people in the services can support each other. So we understand that as well, but I also understand how you are spending potentially 10 to 40, 50 hours a week, if not more, with maybe you get double crewed with somebody, and you're on 4 nights or late or something like that. Like you spend a lot of time with each other. But not only that, you also spend a lot of time supporting each other too. So they may be supporting you when something bad's happening, or they may be protecting you or looking after you, or they might come and help you. So yeah, I can see why people do it. My only advice is don't do it while you currently got a partner. Like if things aren't good at home, maybe end that relationship before you start dating somebody else. Um, what I do find mad though, as I've always found this mad, is that I know a lady who she was I think 12 years in by the time I left. She'd gone through a couple of promotions and she'd split with her partner. And I remember saying, yeah, yeah, she's not going to come from a pension when I retire. And I think that's backwards. I think that's crazy that that is even a thing because I don't understand how me 10 years into my career and we split up, I do another 20, 25 years. This person who I was with 25 years ago, who's then probably happily married with somebody else, has a new life, is then getting part of my pension, a percentage of my pension. I mean, I know why, because say if it's like that person couldn't work because you had children together and they sacrificed their earning potential to, but like 25 years later, it seems a bit fucking backwards to me. It seems a bit backwards. But yeah. So when it comes to dating in a job, I'm interested to know, are you dating in the job? Have you had any experience dating with a job? Good, bad, and ugly. I actually I know two officers that were dating. They were on the same block, and the sergeant told them that they couldn't be double crewed. They couldn't crew up together. They couldn't crew up on nights. And they moved blocks. They moved blocks, and then I think they eventually went to different departments, different specialist units. But what's your thoughts on that? Do you think it should be a case of you can date on a block? Is it a case of that, because there's a few things there, isn't there? Like, yeah, okay, you're spending time with each other and you got each other's backs. But I also know of other people who um they were on the same block, they were dating, and one of them pressed their emergency button and the other partner hearing their girlfriend or boyfriend in potentially getting hurt, just red mist, and they actually had like a bad accident as a result. So I can see that side of like the safety aspect. And then there's also the thing of, well, if you see your partner doing something against professional standards or abusing their position for whatever reason, are you then going to challenge them, and are you going to report them if necessary as well? So that's another aspect. And then of course there's always the whole thing of, are you shagging on the job? And it happens, but it's not, obviously it doesn't just happen in emergency services, it happens fucking all sorts of places, doesn't it? Um, I used to be a residential carer, and people would so there'd be a couple of care staff on overnight and in a house on their own. You can imagine some stuff went on there. Some funny businesses went on there as well. So it's not just in emergency services, but I can see how it does happen. Um, do you think that they should be separated? Do you think they shouldn't be allowed to double up? Do you think that, okay, well, you're seeing this person, we now need to move you on another block? But then what happens if your shifts are opposite? If you're on days and they're on nights, or you're off and they're on lates, you know what I mean? So it's like, when do you actually spend time with each other so the job can actually make it harder to start seeing each other? Um, there was another one I was going to mention as well. Yeah, I don't agree with supervisors dating somebody who they're in charge of if they're on the same block. I know a couple of people like that. It's not something I agree with at all. I don't think that should be allowed. Um, if you're a sergeant or an inspector, or you're a shift manager and whatever, and you are dating somebody who's on another block and they're a lesser rank than you, then fine. You don't have direct influence over them. But I don't agree with that. A supervisor should be able to be in a relationship with somebody they are looking over. Because, for one example, I knew a lady who was dating somebody who was a shift supervisor, and this shift supervisor was kicking off with the other block when it came to handing something over. And because it was their partner, they were adamant, no, they're not keeping it. They're not keeping this incident. They're not keeping this job. It's not down to them. And coming up with every excuse possible. It was absolutely this person's responsibility that they were going to take that on. But this is what I mean, because they had the power and the influence and the authority, they were like, "No, I'll protect my partner." Well, so that's favoritism, that you can't do that. And this goes back to, if they were doing something wrong, would you report them? So it is, I mean, it's a personally, I'd always just say, don't shit where you eat. If you want to date somebody, maybe move blocks, maybe move to a different department, whatever. But yeah, it's not for me. I remember once when I was in college, and I think I learned this lesson the hard way. I was in college and I was about 19, and I dated a girl who was in the same year. She was a year below me, but it was quite a small college, so you'd always run into each other. Anyway, that relationship didn't work out, so then I had to see them every day, and it was fucking horrendous. It was volatile and chaotic, and yeah, I couldn't wait to leave. And then I did leave, and anyway, but no, so I'm interested in your thoughts when it comes to dating on the job. Drop me a message on Instagram, or message me or email me at thejobpod25@gmail.com. It's all in the description below. So there's dating in the job. Then what I want to get onto now is when it comes to, uh, in particular, men, does tend to be men, but also happens to women. Um, it seems to be It seems to be when somebody is a serving officer, or they have some kind of position of authority or power, be that a nurse or whatever. I can only speak from a police perspective. It seems like they are more likely to get arrested if an allegation's made. What's your thoughts on that? And the reason why I say that is because it's happened to me. I was in a very volatile relationship, and it's actually, well, it was 2021, New Year 2021. So it's 5 years ago it happened. So 5 years ago to the day, this time 5 years ago, I was on bail. And I was on bail till March, which in hindsight is actually quite quick. January, February, I think mid March or the start of March. So on about 10, 12 weeks on bail. Bail then released under investigation, and it was hell. It was absolute hell. It was horrible. And the reason I'm talking about this is because a I've had a few people message me and say, like, you speaking about your experience has helped me get through it, because I'm currently going through the same thing. And it seems to be that if you are a police officer and somebody makes an allegation against you, you are much more likely to be arrested. When it comes to charging, my own experience is the CPS are quite objective when it comes to it. They look at it, are they not a case of are you a bobby or are you not? Are you in a position of authority or are you not? But what does the evidence suggest? In my case, it was I was attacked by my partner. I was in a very volatile domestic abusive relationship with a lady for about 7 months. It doesn't sound like a lot, but trust me, when you're in it, it's a long fucking time. So I was in that. This one night, she'd assaulted me a couple of times, and this one night she just went fucking ape shit. Basically, what happened was we'd had a few drinks, and a colleague of mine had liked um, a few photos of me and my son playing in the snow. As innocent as that, and I'd been paired up with him the night before as well, because it was over. I was working over Christmas. Um, my ex-partner saw red. And throughout our relationship, what she would do was she would split up with me over the slightest thing. And we was engaged crazy enough, fucking insane. And she'd throw that ring, spent more time throwing it at my face rather than it ever spent on her finger. Um, so she passed me this, this particular final time, she went, I just went, you know what? I've now had enough of you. And I don't think she could handle that. I think she was come some kind of abandonment issues or some personality disorder, whatever. But for whatever reason, me saying, I've had enough of you, I'm now done. She went absolutely crazy and she fucking punched me God knows how many times. She slapped me. I tried to restrain her against the wall. That didn't work. We ended up on the floor some fucking how. And basically, to get her to stop, I ended up hitting her to get her to make her get off me. So I then rang the police. I rang the police 999 straight away, picked up the phone. My fucking nose was busted, nose was bleeding. I rang up the police and said, my partner's just assaulted me. She's still here. Can you come and help me? They basically went, no. They said, what's she doing now? I said, well, she's calmed down a little bit now, but she's still here. I need you to come and remove her for me. Like, this isn't the first time this has happened. Um, then they said, no, we're not coming helping you. So I then had to remove her myself. And that's the last time I ever saw her. I rang the police 4 or 5 times over the next few days, and they just kept saying, "Oh, we're too busy. We're too busy to come out. We're too busy to come and help you." And then the next 2 days later, about 40 hours after the event, after I made that first phone call, I was in the station at work, and as I'm about to leave, the police came and locked me up for assault because she'd rang up the police and said my partner assaulted me. They hadn't even been to see her. They hadn't even got a statement off her. But because of the allegation, and she's gone, "He's a police officer," they've gone, "Fuck, well, we need to lock him up." So that's from my own personal experience as well. And also because they'd basically taken her side, um, nothing ever happened with my allegation as well. It was basically forgotten about. So I was let down twice. I was let down by the service who were there to protect me, and I was let down by not getting my justice, so to speak. So I do talk about this quite a lot, and I have spoken about it frequently on other podcasts as well, because I think it needs to be. Okay, it's quite multi-layered. This really, it's not just necessarily to do with cops as well, but I do think the much more overzealous when it comes to cops. Like someone messaged me and said they they were locked up over an allegation from like months back, where someone's just gone, yeah, my partner did this. Oh yeah, he's a bobby. Oh, he's a bobby, is it? Right, okay, we'll go lift him. No, no, they were never charged. Everyone you've spoken to has never been charged. So they tell me, of course. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but I can only take them on face value. But saying that they've never been, they weren't charged. There was no evidence. And I actually know I know somebody personally who was in the police, and they walked into work with a fucking black eye, and said, My girlfriend punched me last night." They made a statement, made a complaint, got passed over, and then the girlfriend has then rang up and gone, "Well, he smacked me on the ass too hard fucking 6 months ago, and it left a red mark." And guess who got locked up? It was him. Again, completely NFA'd, but it was months of being on bail and being released from investigation and being suspended from work. And then once it was all NFA'd, many months later, before the internal investigation concluded, and they were interviewed twice, I believe, over the allegation via the internal affairs people, the professional standards. That never went that far with me, I with me, the professional standards are they're actually really good. To be full hats off to them in this circumstance, and I know a lot can be said for the PSD department, but in my position, my circumstance, yes, they had to serve papers on me for like gross misconduct and everything else. But once the criminal investigation was dropped and the CPS actually said like you've locked up the wrong person here, you've fucked up. Like it shouldn't have been him coming with you. It should have been her, based on the evidence we've got in front of us. We can clearly tell she's lying, but you picked her side for whatever reason. Um, of which I then also sued the police force for about 5 grand as well. So there's also that. If you've been locked up and you think it was a malicious allegation and you don't think there was any cause for the arrest, if you don't think the arrest was justified, sue them. Fucking sue them because that's the only way the the bosses learn is when it hits their pocket. Well, not their pocket personally, but the organisation. Um, and yeah, so I didn't get interviewed, but this lad did. He got interviewed a couple of times, and eventually, yeah, he ended up quitting. He ended up going, right, you know what, fuck yeah, I've been on suspension or whatever now for 18 months. I'm not going back. Shove your job at your ass. So it's like, right, okay. So he left. But I know of a few people this has happened to now, and I think it's twofold. One, I think it's if you're a serving bobby, you're more likely to get done, well, to get locked up. And it's not only that; it's like that's really stressful because if you end up in a domestic abusive relationship, which can happen, like I say, it happened to me. I know of other officers it's happened to. I know a lady actually. I know a woman who was in my force was so big on like DA, we need to protect people of DA, in particular women and girls, violence against women and girls and all that stuff. Great. Okay. Yeah, I'm all for that. Until it came to their own. Because what happened was this girl was in a DA relationship and he had all the flags for a DA relationship. She disclosed things to supervisors, she disclosed things to other colleagues, and they all put in statements as well. They then, the officer lied a few times saying, "Oh, I can't come and work today because I'm too ill." When it turns out it was actually their partner, their abusive partner, saying, "No, you're going to call in sick for work because we're going out today. I want to go out." And when they reported it, because she didn't want to make a proper complaint for a myriad of reasons, which happens when people are in DA relationships, a myriad of reasons why that can happen. The case was NFA. The case was no further actioned, and then she was sacked for lying because he said, well, your honesty and integrity comes into question. So when it comes to DA, we're all for victimless prosecutions. We're all for believing the victims, looking after the victims when it's not a Bobby. But when it comes to a Bobby being in issues and having trouble, um, they don't get supported. They're treated as a victim. And then if they can go, well, we'll get rid of you because of X, Y, and Z, you're not our problem anymore. It's completely fucking wrong. So, and again, I know of just as I'm thinking now, as I'm talking, I know of another officer who left the job because of that same sort of thing in a DA relationship, not supported. Um, they ended up getting their abuser charged, which is great, but then due to the stress and everything else what happened over the family, like family life and everything else, like the officer wasn't supported. They were actually put on action plans because of their unsatisfactory performance, and they ended up leaving a job that they've wanted for a long time, and they just it's hypocritical. It's so hypocritical, and I really think there's so much work needs to be done when it comes to protecting officers from crime. Where you think an officer, a victim of crime, you think that that's they'd be the best supported people in the world. But from what I'm seeing, guys, it's not the case at all. And I wonder what it is like. I wonder whether it was just my force. Well, I know it wasn't just my force because this has happened to a few people from different forces around the country. But I'd be interested to know as well if you get any experience with this. And thank you to everyone who has messaged me about it. But I also think when it comes to the second part of that is I think if you're a man, I think that the system is sexist in the sense of if you are a man and you're accused of DA, you are much more likely to be arrested than if you're a woman and you're accused of DA. And I remember speaking to a detective about this actually, and they explained to me that they know of cases where the male has rang up, and I know of cases like this too, where the male has rang up and gone, I've been assaulted by my partner, I need help. The police have turned up. They've then either arrested the female or gone to speak to the female. The females then made a counter allegation and said, well, they're controlling or they've sexually assaulted me or whatever. They've then arrested the male. It turns out it's all fabrication and bullshit. And I do wonder why the CPS and the police are so reluctant to charge women and men, but it just generally tends to be women who make false allegations when it comes to sexual assault, when it comes to rape, these sorts of things, because you do hear about it. And it's wrong that it does happen, and it's and of course the police weren't there. They don't know who's telling the truth. But if you have a consistent pattern of somebody who is consistently lying and accusing all different kinds of people, and not like, accusing different kinds of people, but you have evidence to show that what they're saying isn't actually true, then why are those people not prosecuted? Why is it okay, or seemingly okay, for people to go around making false allegations against people, using the police and the courts as a weapon against them? Because when we look at domestic abuse and we look at female perpetrators, we know that men stay in abusive relationships with women because of fear of family court saying that they can't see the children due to malicious allegations, because it's on the balance of probability, not beyond all reasonable doubt. I know people that have been through that. They now have restraining orders and uh, Kafkas, I think it is, like social care involved with them now, labeling them as domestic abuse perpetrators when they haven't committed a crime. It's just a malicious allegation. Or we have men who stay in abusive relationships because if they leave, their abuser will make false allegations to the police. They will be arrested. And, if you even if you're not charged, you still have a PNC record. And if you've been accused of something quite sinister when you haven't done it, people are going to make their own minds up. And that can affect you if you've gone for a job interview, if you need an enhanced DBS check, and all sorts of ramifications. So I don't know what needs to be done. And I do talk about this a little bit in the new book, The System's Fucked. I do go a bit more into this. So what do you think? Do you think, I don't know, do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? Do you think that the police are fair when they come to arresting people? Do you think that the courts are fair when they come to charging people? Do you think, no, believe all women? Violence against women and girls, we need to believe all women. And if some men get arrested and it's a false allegation, then so be it. That's the price we have to pay. Or do you believe that it shouldn't happen and officers need to be more inquisitive and investigate more? But then this leads me on to the other part. What I was going to say is that we know now that police forces are graded based on stats, based on not even detections, but based on arrests, and in particular, when it comes to domestic violence arrests. And this was a big sticking point for me when I was in the job, and it's a big thing to talk about. In that officers are going to incidents and they've got their supervisor on the phone to them in their radio in their ear before they've even got there saying, this has been reported on the call, you have to arrest, or you're going to do this. They're not there. And we know how many times we've gone to a job and something's been disclosed on the radio. They said, oh, he's got a knife or he's this or he's that. You go there and everything's fine. But based on that initial call, which people lie to get the police there quicker, based on that initial call, we are making decisions about what is going to happen when we get there. You should go in with an idea, and if they're saying nothing's happened, but you bit like, no, no, something's gone on here, something's absolutely gone on, and you arrest, then fine. But if you go there and you're like, I reckon I don't feel that arrest is the best thing here, but then we are told and pressured off supervisors who want statistics in the box and want box ticks that the officers have to make a certain decision. And like I said, I've been arrested. It's fucking horrible. It's horrible. It's the worst thing that's ever happened to me. It's awful. I know of people that have been arrested and they've all said the same thing. It wasn't a day out. It wasn't a nice experience at all. And of course, being on bail and everything else. It's absolutely fucking horrendous. So all I'm saying is, when you attend an incident, when you attend a job, just think about, is this the right thing to do? If you believe it is, then great. If you go there and you're going, I don't want to do this, but my supervisor's saying I should, it's not your supervisor that's going to be in the dock in court. It's not your supervisor that it has to put their name to that, and it's not your supervisor that has to go home and be happy with that decision what you've made. It's easy for a supervisor. Mate, I remember fucking hearing an inspector on the phone saying, they're saying, "Oh, we're not sure anything's gone on here." It's going, "Yeah, well, lock him up anyway. We'll find something later." Because it's all about box ticking. It's about stats. And that inspector puts the radio down and goes, "Great, that's another tick in the box on my block today." Makes the bosses happy, makes my career prospects better. But meanwhile, you've got an officer there suffering moral injury because what they're doing is wrong. They know what they're doing is wrong, but they're under so much pressure to get the ticks in the box. Otherwise, they get in the shit. And on the other side, you've also got the faith in the public's faith in the police being diminished, being harmed. You've potentially got a man or a woman who's been abused, who has maybe retaliated, or they haven't done anything. Maybe they've even tried to leave the relationship and it's a false allegation. You've got to use your head. You've got to use your head with these things. It is your power. It is your power if you decide to take someone's liberty away or not, someone's freedom away or not your supervisors. And if they say, "Well, you're going to be in trouble because you haven't arrested them," right? Okay, I'll go to the fucking media then. I'll go to professional standards. I'll go to um, the federation. Try and sack me. Try and sack me or put me in an action plan because I haven't arrested somebody. They can't give you a lawful order to lock somebody up. It's your power. And you have to be brave enough and have to have enough strength in your conviction to go, I'm not doing it. If you're someone who just, you want an easy life and you're going to arrest people if you're told to, then fine. That's also your decision. It's not something I would personally advocate for because, like I said, I've been on both sides of the cell door. And I'm quite happy to say I don't think I did, but I never arrested somebody because I was told to. I only ever locked somebody up because I believed that that was the right thing to do. And I had quite high arrest stats on my block, but I also got a lot of shit for it because I could I could justify to no end the decisions I'd made and I'd stick by them. If I got it wrong, I would learn from it. But just because you got it wrong in one sense doesn't mean that that is a blanket template for what you then do moving forward. Um, so yeah, anyway, right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was nice little chunk of the podcast there. Nice little rant I did there. I've got a few different stories I'd like to get into, but I don't want to take up all of your time. So I'm just going to finish on this. Those pro-Palestine marches that are shouting "Get a real fucking job." Have you seen those shouting at the police "Get a real fucking job"? The irony is palpable. What I would say is I would go, "All right, okay. Well, I've got you on body camera. I'm going to see whether you are claiming benefits for disability or that you can't go out. Get a real fucking job. Sort your fucking lives out." And I'm all for people protesting and something they believe in. If you believe the Palestine thing is, if you're pro-Palestine or whatever, okay, I kind of don't try and touch this as much as I possibly can because if there's one um topic which gets people riled up and makes people quite angry, it's this. So I try not to touch it. I've got mates and friends who are very much into it. And as soon as you mention it, if you say anything against what they're saying, you're wrong. And it can get quite nasty. So I try not to get involved in it. But I do have a quick story for you, which I would like to share. So on shift, and I thought I'd send you another quick story from my list. An officer gave out a traffic ticket. I can't remember what for. When all the paperwork was completed, they asked the team where they needed to send it. They were told to send it to the Camera Traffic and Collisions Department. They then proceeded to Google Camera Traffic and Collision Department for an address, wrote the address out and posted it on its merry way. We can see where this is going already. Oh dear. A short time passed and a local bike shop, funnily enough, called CTC, because that was the abbreviation CTC, phoned up and explained why they had received a traffic ticket with all the paperwork, including all the driver's personal details on. Just a GDPR breach. Safe to say, a big cake fine was given. That's not okay. You're fucking lucky if you get your job after that, mate, because that is bad. I mean, come on, no, no, you don't do that. That's very, very silly. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have been a pleasure as always. It's been wonderful. Make sure to share this podcast with somebody who you think may enjoy it. Make sure you leave a comment as well. I enjoy reading comments. Drop it a like. subscribe, do all the good stuff. Um, yeah. Thank you for everything you do. Make sure to send in your stories because this podcast dies without your stories and your accolades and funny stories and rants and everything else and anecdotes. Like you power this mission, basically. You power this entire platform. So send your stories in either uh, the job's fucked on Instagram. Try again. Either the job's fucked on Instagram or the job pod25 at gmail.com. Send them all through. I love hearing your stories. And as you can tell, I anonymize everything. I proofread everything to make sure no one can be identified. And so far, nobody has messaged me saying you've caught me up with that. So that's good. So that's good. So I know I'm doing the right thing. You have a wonderful day. Stay safe. Take care of yourselves. Love you very, very much. Mwah.